Well, thank you again, everybody, for joining. This is going to be a webinar strictly on our proofing tool. So if you've used Pozotron, you've definitely used our proofing tool, or most likely. And today we're going to be going into all of the extraneous features, the bells and whistles, and kind of get really into the weeds on some features that you might not be aware of. So if this is your first look at our proofing tool, um, we will be getting into advanced features, so just warning you there. But if you've used us before, hopefully we can show you some new tricks as you use Pozotron in your workflow. I'm also Johnny Freeman. I'm Pozotron's Customer Outreach Manager. And Adam, do you want to introduce yourself?
I am Adam Fritz, and I'm CEO of Pozotron. I'm just here riding shotgun today to do the Q&A for Johnny. So if anyone has any questions, please put it into the Q&A box.
Yes, and it looks like Zoom changed the settings, so you might have to click the More button and then click Q&A to open it up. So that is new. But if you do have any questions, this is the time and place for them. Just make sure that you put them in the Q&A box so we don't miss any messages in the chat. But okay, with that, we will get started. So the first thing we're going to look at is the agenda. So what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to start from the beginning of a project where you're actually creating the project. There's some proofing settings in there that we want to show you exactly what they do. Then we're going to be looking at the proofing page features. So this is in Pozotron. There's a whole bunch of buttons in there, and we're really going to be looking at each one of those to show you all your options in the proofing page. The proofing interface is where you're actually in a chapter proofing. So we're going to go through those features as well. And then a couple of shout outs, the pickup tags. There's some extra functionality there, so they get a shout out, and some general profile settings to make your proofing workflow a bit more customized to how you use Pozotron. So we'll be getting into all of that. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in as we go along. We'll answer them just as they're asked, so no need to wait for Q&A time. Okay, so getting started, project creation. So there are a few settings in here when you create your project. The only required settings for you to choose here is to give it a title and upload a manuscript. Now, there are some extra settings, and I'm actually just going to pull up Pozotron so we can take a look at those. So in Pozotron, when you're creating a project, you'll start with the Create New Project button here. And as I said, the only settings you really need to get started is to give it a title and upload your manuscript here, a PDF, EPUB, or Word document. But there are some additional settings here. So project settings allows you to organize your projects a little bit better by giving it an ISBN or an ID. So you can actually enter that in here. You can also enter a final due date, and this will be presented in the chapter, so you can kind of keep track of your projects. So a couple of organizational features, but the main one I wanted to show you today is the sensitivity settings. So the sensitivity settings will allow you to tell Pozotron how strict you want it to be when proofing your project. If you have a project where you need it to be word perfect, maybe a medical narration, you need to be absolutely certain that every word is said word for word, you can actually make it more sensitive by going to extra sensitive here. So this makes Pozotron much more literal. And generally moving the sensitivity to extra sensitive increases the annotation suggestion by about 25 to 33%. And moving it to relaxed will reduce the amount of annotations you're getting. So if you're getting a lot of false positives from Pozotron, or a project you have has a deep accent in the narration and Pozotron's getting some things wrong here, that's when we would recommend to move to the relaxed setting. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like here. So I've created 3 projects, all with the same scripts and the same audio. And I'll start with the extra sensitive one. And when you have a sensitivity option set, it will show you up at the top here, so you are certain what sensitivity setting you've selected for this project. But this chapter that I've uploaded, Pozotron found 10 annotations here. Now, if I go back to my projects, I'm going to show you normal. Normal actually only found 8 annotations in this chapter. And if I go to relaxed, we'll see even less at 5 annotations. So it's the amount of suggestions you're getting from Pozotron. So the annotations that aren't showing up are very, very small mistakes where it's one character or one letter mistakes here. So changing a word for, like there to theirs, that might not get caught in relaxed. Hope that makes sense. But if you have any questions on this, I'd recommend playing around with it as that'll help you get it under your belt.
That's a good segue, Johnny, because we do have a question. Can sensitivity settings from anonymous attendee, can sensitivity be changed after upload? And no, it cannot, unless you email us to get that change. And the reason is to change the sensitivity, you have to completely reprocess the chapter, which means we incur all of our costs to reprocess that chapter. So if you do have something where it's dramatically off and you need dramatically off and you need it to be reprocessed, email us at help@pozotron.com and we can change it and then reprocess it for you. For 1 or 2 chapters, it's not a big deal. For an entire book, it makes it a little more difficult.
Thank you very much. Oh, looks like we have another question actually. I'll answer this one. Can you open those so we can see what types of things it picked up on the extra sensitive that aren't in relaxed? Sure thing. Let me show you. Let me get back to the project. Okay, so let's actually start with the extra sensitive setting here. So if I open this up, we can see the amount of annotations was 10. It's always going to have the beginning and ending annotations in Pozotron. So it found 8 things in this chapter to be corrected. So one thing, I don't know if we want to go through all of these, but the differences from extra sensitive to normal, there is, I went through this myself. There's an annotation right here, and I'll play that for you. So Pozotron's identified this as a word inserted.
Johnny didn't share the audio, so I think you need to reshare it and make sure it clicks the share tab audio button.
You are correct. Let's see. Share sound. Okay. Let's see if that fixed it.
Good or ill? What does Dr. James...
Good to go? Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, so this is an example of the kind of annotation that Pozotron might get wrong on extra sensitive. It's being very, very strict. And we can hear here, this sound is kind of inserted between what does.
Ill. What does Dr.
So Pozotron's identified this as a word inserted. Another one here would be
one thing just to note here with this, because this is an accented, not a classic American English, obviously. That the way he pronounces what is just there's a little bit of a weird hitch there, which is what creates, and this is extra sensitive, I assume. And so that's what's creating that. You'll get more of those false annotations.
Exactly. And that's generally why these sensitivity options are here, is for accented narrations, so you can kind of customize the sensitivity there. So that's an example of something that's found in extra sensitive. And if I go back to normal, and I'm going to open this one up, this found 8 annotations. We can see that one is not in this list. So that's an example. In relaxed, let's see what it found in there. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place. So here, relaxed found very obvious word inserted, a very obvious misread where they said the wrong word, and another misread here where the words were pronounced out of order. So I can actually, if we wanted to go more in depth on this after the webinar, I can make a little article here showing you each of these projects, and possibly even share these projects if you want to take a look at this yourself and really dive into it. But that's a kind of a high level what the difference will be between those sensitivity options. Okay, the only thing I didn't mention when creating a project is the noise detection. So noise detection, this will detect background noises, clipping in your audio file, things like that. You can enable and disable this. And it also has its own sensitivity options here. It follows the same rules as the proofing sensitivity, but this is just for noises. So again, you have more control. After you've used Pozotron for a while, you kind of see what kind of annotations it'll bring up. And you can change the sensitivity based on the feedback you're getting. Okay, if no other questions on that, I will move on to the next tab here, which is the proofing tab. So we're going to look at these settings here, and I've outlined kind of the areas that in our experience get less use. So these are kind of hidden features you might not be aware of. So I'm going to go through each one of these. And let me pull up Pozotron again. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to talk about is the Estimates tab here. So this is a really useful tool, and I'm actually going to show you in a project that has no audio uploaded so far. So here's a demo project with no audio. So the Estimates tool can be used to give you an idea how long a project is going to take. And Margaret, I see your question. I will get back to you on that in just a second after we go through estimates. But yes, we will touch upon that. Okay, so for the estimates, if you upload your script to Pozotron, as soon as it's done processing, you can check out this estimates. What this is going to show you is the script total words. So the total words in your script, and then based off of industry standards, will kind of tell you how much time or how much time and effort is going to be required to get this project done. So this can help you with scheduling and planning out your projects. It'll show you how much time we expect you to spend on the narration, how much on the proofing and the editing. And the total runtime up here is the amount of audio, the length of audio that it would require generally to narrate this many words. So this is a quick look, just to give you an idea how much effort a project is going to be. Also, these, I did want to let you know, these percentages, that is currently still being worked on. So these will always show 0%. So don't be alarmed if you see that in your project. But these will eventually, as you upload audio and as you go through and proof it, these will update automatically so you can kind of keep track of where you're at in the project. And Margaret, I will answer your question now. So this might be coming up, but can you talk about trimming things off the PDF before uploading it? Example, in my nonfiction books, I never need the notes at the end. So that wasn't a topic we were going to cover in this webinar, but we can help you with that in terms of editing your PDF, redacting things that shouldn't be in there, or cropping the PDF. So I'll follow up with you after the webinar. I can show you some tricks to kind of perfect your script for Pozotron. Okay, moving on from estimates. So we're going to go through these buttons up here. Let me go back to my other project. So the Annotation Filter, this is a tool that allows you to ignore certain types of Pozotron's annotations. So if we open this up, Pozotron is going to find, when you upload your audio, 5 kinds of mistakes. So it's going to find misreads where there's a mispronunciation or the wrong word is said in place of another word. Inserted words is when the narrator says words that aren't in the script, so adding additional words. Missed words is not narrating certain words in the script, and then we'll find pauses and noises. So the annotation filter, if there's a particular kind of annotation that you don't want to focus on, you don't want to see suggestions about, like let's say pauses, if I'm not concerned about that at all in this project, I can just click pauses, click filter, and this will filter out 16 annotations. It'll tell you how many are going to be ignored. But clicking OK here will, when you go into your proofing, those annotations will already be ignored. There's some additional functionality here, and this sounds a bit complicated. I'll do my best to describe the word parameter here, but essentially you can select a minimum number of words. So if you want to ignore annotations where the narrator inserted one word, but if he inserts more than one word, you want those to be not ignored. You can set an annotation here and essentially filter out the small mistakes, but still be privy to the large mistakes. Now, if that doesn't make sense, let us know. There's probably an easier way of explaining that.
No, that's a great explanation. And Todd, just so you know, we will, when we get into proofing, we will be covering as well how to handle specific narrators.
Definitely, that will be our pickup tags will save you a lot of trouble there. So excited to show you that, Todd. Okay, moving on to the import export. So there are a lot of options here for exporting your pickups or information from your project. One thing I wanted to show you is at the beginning of your project, there is a very underutilized option here, which is book full text. Now, what this is, when you upload your script to Pozotron, Pozotron is going to actually scan your whole script, and we make our own copy, which has gotten rid of all the formatting, all of the fonts, and anything that makes the PDF hard to read for our software. And the book full text shows you that version. So if I download that and open it up, I see a very ugly script. There's no formatting, there's no fonts or anything like that. But we can see that it was read correctly. So all of the words are readable. Now I want to show you this because if you use Pozotron for a while, you may have had a PDF that gave you issues where Pozotron wasn't able to read it. And I want to show you an example of how you could catch that. So here's a script here with PDF issues. We can see the font is a very cursive, elegant looking font. And when I opened this up and I uploaded audio, I got this audio and text mismatch warning. Now, before I uploaded audio, I could have selected this book full text and exported it to see what Pozotron understood from this PDF. And opening it up, we can see that it's come through looking like gibberish. Now, it's not always this bad. Sometimes it's just specific words that aren't able to be read because of the font creating ligatures, and that's hard for our software to read. But I did want to show you this export option, as it's a very good best practice to check that out before uploading audio, just so you know it'll be processed correctly. The proofing report and pickup packet will kind of go over at the end. We do also have support articles covering each one of these exports. So if you have a project where you do need subtitles and you're not sure how to get that, definitely let us know. There's a lot of options here. Adam, any of these export or import options that we should call out specifically here?
No, I'd say just two quick things. Pickup audio exports all, if you didn't say that already, exports all of your pickups separated by, I think, 1 second of silence, all in one long file. And just very, very clearly, the TTS alignment. This does not mean TTS stands for text to speech. This, just to be super clear, this does not mean we're getting into generative AI and AI narrator voices. That's just simply gives you the exact time code match for the start and end of every word in your audio file. And that's for some integrations we have discussed with other software companies, whether it's DAWs or other things. So just to be super clear, that is, don't go Chicken Little. We're not changing our on generative AI.
Thanks, Adam. Yep, very important call out there. Okay, so moving on from these above options, also the archive. So if you didn't know, you can archive your chapters. We actually did just update this to include a couple of folders here to make it prettier for you. But archiving is essentially deleting a project. However, it's not fully gone. It just removes it from your homepage here. So if you have a duplicate file or something you no longer need, you can archive it. But we don't fully delete it just in case you do need to access it. We are a fan of not deleting things unless it's absolutely necessary, because we've all been regretful of things we've deleted. So try to avoid that. Okay, some other features in the proofing tab that are you might not know about. So each of these chapters have three-dot menu here. And there are some chapter-specific options that you can do here. You can download the audio for this chapter. You can archive the chapter right from here. You can export chapter-specific reports, such as DAW markers, pickup packets, and proofing reports, or the TTS data. There is an option to mark all annotations as a pickup, which you can actually do to your entire project from the annotation filter. So if you just want to mark everything as a pickup and then export those DAW markers to your project and proof inside your DAW, but still see all of Pozotron's suggestions, you can do that. There's also an option to mark all pickups as fixed. So this is a feature that I think is also slightly underutilized, is marking pickups as fixed when they're corrected, just so you can see exactly if you have to leave in the middle of a project and come back, you know exactly where you're at. So you can mark a chapter as completely fixed or unmark it as well. So those buttons are there. You can also rename any of the chapters by clicking this pencil icon. And there's kind of a secret use case that I'll touch upon later when we're talking about pickup tags in regards to naming your files. So a little foreshadowing there. Okay. We're just going into a lot of settings, so appreciate you bearing with me. One of the other features I want to show you here is the manually create chapter button. So this is a really flexible tool. So if you've uploaded your script to Pozotron, and especially if there is a section of narration that's not included in the original manuscript, so let's say it's an acknowledgements section that is not actually a part of the script you uploaded, you can use this manually create chapter button to kind of create your own script for this particular chapter. So you'll give it a name. I could call this acknowledgements or chapter 1, and then I would actually copy and paste my text from the script into this box here. And essentially, Pozotron will use this as the script for whatever audio file you put into this box here. Another reason this would be useful is if there are certain chapters where you have a lot of charts or a lot of images and things that the narrator are not going to be narrating. So they're skipping over a page of charts or something like that. That can mess up the algorithm when it's trying to figure out where to match the text to. So if you have a problem chapter like that, you can also then just copy and paste the text in here and get around that issue. So that is, yeah, that's a flexible tool there. The last thing I'll talk about is the project settings down in the bottom right. This is only available on, oh, it looks like we got a question. Bill, can I recheck a chapter? By recheck, I think you mean like re-upload a chapter after you've corrected the pickups, or do you just want to recheck something like start the, okay, cool. So the first one. So yes, you can definitely upload an audio file for a double check after you've corrected the pickups. You will get an automatic 50% discount on that file when you upload it again. So we have a built-in discount for people who want to recheck those audio files and make sure that they're perfect. So yes, you definitely can, but it will be charged at 50%. A little caveat there. Okay, where was I? Project settings. So there's a few settings in here that are only available here. First of all, you can delete the project. You can archive the project or some chapters. You can mark all pickups as fixed, clear imported pickups, and reset any. So if you use the annotation filter up here, and let's say we ignored all pauses, I could then use the project settings, reset annotation filters to undo that filter. So I'll see it as it was normal, or as it was at the beginning. And then if you ever need to get a fresh start on a project, but you don't want to create a whole new one, you can use this reset entire project button. This will clear out any annotations that you've marked. All of your research data in the pronunciation guide and character guide will get reset. but your audio files will stay here and they'll stay processed. It's just whatever you've marked them as will go back to default. So that can come in handy if you do need to get a fresh start. Okay, I'll take a quick pause there to see if there's any questions as we move into the proofing interface. So let me pull this up. Emma, great question. If the research is reset, do we get charged a second time to use it again for that project? No, absolutely not. If you have already accepted the pricing plan for the pronunciation guide or character guide and you reset it, you won't be greeted with that accept pricing plan pop up again. So it's actually a really good way if you've done some research, but you kind of want to start over. That button is great for that. It'll just bring it right back to the beginning, but no, you will not be double charged. Good question. Okay, Bill, what happens if I realize I've uploaded the wrong manuscript? So that is a good question. You can change your manuscript if you uploaded the wrong one, but only before you upload audio files. So once audio files are uploaded to a project, they've been anchored together, and you can no longer change the manuscript. So that's another great reason to use the book full text export to make sure that it's the correct script. But if you have not uploaded audio, so if I go to a project with no audio, there's a button here to upload a new manuscript. And this is, it's a great way to, if you have a prep script that you're going to do some prep on, but it's not the final script that you'll actually be recording off of, you can upload that one first, do your research in the script prep tools, and then upload the new manuscript when you're ready to actually upload your audio. Thanks for your questions. Okay. Moving on, the proofing tab, we just went through that. Okay, the proofing interface. So once you have uploaded audio, let me pull up Pozotron again. And we go into the proofing by clicking this open proofing button. The general workflow is to just begin listening through, marking each annotation as okay, typo, or pickup as you come across them. But I wanted to take this time to show you all of the extra settings in here that you might not be aware of. And one of the first tools, this is a brand new feature, is our script sync capability. So I'm actually going to move to another chapter where that is obvious. So we can see here I've got Sherlock and Holmes highlighted. There's some other highlights going on here. So this is information from the script prep tools that I've done before I uploaded audio here. So this is actually allowing me to check out character voices while I proof. So if I want to ensure that the character voice was used for this line of dialogue, we can see this is Sherlock saying this. I can click on Holmes and then play the voice sample to make sure it matches.
I'm afraid, my dear Watson.
So we can see, so as I proof there, I can double check that. I can also double check pronunciations. So a word on your pronunciation guide will be highlighted in yellow. And as I listen through to
He's
this,
known as a Penang lawyer.
so I can then click the word and make sure it matches the agreed upon pronunciation.
Penang.
And Adam, did you have something to add?
Just a question from Jack. Some suggestions include filter out and some don't. What determines whether filter out is available? That's actually something, there's technical reasons why that has happened. I believe the only one that is not missing words and added words, I believe, are the only ones that do not currently include filter out, but that option is coming.
So missing words you can filter out. It's only inserted words that are not able to be filtered out, I think.
And that is coming. That I actually saw that come across the dev roadmap this morning. So good timing, Jack.
Okay, so that is the script sync. So essentially, if you've done script prep, you can integrate it into proofing, so you can double check voices and pronunciations. This is especially helpful in projects that have fantasy words or invented words where Pozotron's pronunciation detection isn't going to be very useful because they're made up words, you can then double check those as you go through the proofing here. Another functionality of it is being able to update character voices from or pronunciations from the audio for this chapter. So if you click and highlight a section of the script, there's the pickup button, but there's also a new microphone button. So I can take the audio from this section and add it to a word, or I can add it to a character as a voice sample. So we're trying to bridge the gap between the prep that you do in Pozotron and the proofing to make it a seamless workflow for you there. Looks like we have some questions in the chat. So I'm not sure how far back it goes, but Kim, I see that
I can review those for you, Johnny,
okay.
and I'll add them into the
Q&A.
Prep you.
Perfect. Thank
actually, you know what? Actually, if everyone could just throw, if you did ask a question in the chat, if you could just throw that into the Q&A box, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. So now we're going to talk about tags. Tags are a very useful part of proofing in Pozotron. So just to let you know what they are, when you are, oh, Jack, I see you have a question. Can you demonstrate adding a character voice to the list? Yes. So let's say this line of dialogue here, this is Sherlock. So let me play that.
Reassuring. Well, Watson, what do you make of it?
So if I wanted to use that sentence as a character sample, I could click and highlight this, click the microphone button, go to characters, and we see we have Sherlock and Holmes. They should be the same, so I didn't add them as an alias. But if I wanted to add that to Sherlock, all I have to do is click add to add the voice sample. It'll tell me it's been added. And now if I go back to my characters and I go to Sherlock, we can see it's added a second voice sample here for me.
I'm afraid my...
Oh, that's not it?
Well, Watson, what do you make of it?
So now that's been added to the character voice. So it's a really easy way to capture a character voice and put it into organized character voice guide. Looks like we have a bunch of questions rolling in.
I've answered a couple of them. The only one, so this goes back to PDF prep. How do we deal with footnotes and endnotes? So Patrick, I can answer that one there. It really depends on if you're reading them or not. In terms of footnotes, if you have a properly formatted PDF, meaning the footnotes are going to be at the bottom of the page consistently at the same place in the bottom of the page, or even better, if you have a Word document where it's actually properly formatted with the actual footnotes or endnotes function in Word, you upload them, they'll be ignored automatically. If you are not going to be reading them, and it's a PDF version that's basically just a PDF that's plain text without formatting, most of the time it will be ignored by our parsing algorithm, but sometimes not. So the best recommendation would be to actually redact those or crop the page in PDFs. And if you send us an email, we can give you some tutorials on exactly how to do that in Adobe Acrobat. Most of the time it works great. But every PDF is made differently, unfortunately. So sometimes that does create occasional issues. If you're reading them, it gets even more complex, quite frankly. Depending if you read them where the actual superscript number is, or if you read at the end of the page, at the end of the chapter, it gets much more complex. So please send us an email and we can give you detailed information.
Thanks, Adam. Yep. Those tend to be very specific to the project. So yeah, we can help you with that as they come up.
One more question here from Trish. Is this feature for the proofer, this feature, I'm assuming she means script sync, for the proofer to recheck the character voice down the line in later chapters, or is it a feature intended for use by the narrator? Both. From a proofing perspective, it allows you to manually check it, but we do have plans to actually create a version of scan occurrences for character voices later on. So you can actually listen to every line of dialogue in a character's voice that a character has and actually make sure that the character voices are consistent. But that is a little ways away.
Thanks, Adam.
No problem.
Looks like we have another question. Maybe it's obvious, but I think it's important to note that in order to add a character voice sample from the proofing page, you have to have a list of characters from the prep page. Yes, so you do need to have the character already in your character voices guide to be able to add. And I think we're going to be updating this, but not entirely sure. But right now, you do need to have the character already created for it to show up in this list. There's no add character button here, which that may be coming. I'll leave that to Adam.
I believe that's in the dev roadmap, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure that it's.
We'll double check. Yeah. Great point, Emma. Thank you. Okay. Where was I? That was a lot of questions. We're just getting into tags. Okay, so tags are a way for you to organize pickups. So Todd, you had a question earlier. Is there a way to mark specific narrators' corrections in a duet project? That's exactly what these tags are for. So when you're in and I'm actually going to turn off the script sync so that those highlights are gone, which you can do up here by turning these on and off. When you are marking something as a pickup, so there's this pickup button right here. There's also a little button up in the top right with a pencil, and this allows you to add a tag to this pickup. So essentially, this will separate it in your reporting to whatever tag you have here. So if you have multiple narrators on a project, you just type in narrator here, and we have narrators with different numbers. So if this pickup is for narrator 1, I can save it as narrator 1, and when I'm exporting a pickup packet or a proofing report, I can export only this narrator's pickups or only narrator 2's. So tagging can be a way for you to also quickly parse through different kinds of pickups, let's say, and a lot of these actually have automatic tags. So let's say for a pause, if I can find a pause, well, it doesn't look like there is one in here, but let's say this was a pause. I can tag this with hashtag pause. And this allows you to, when you're exporting DAW markers, let's say I only want to go through and get rid of all the pauses, I can export markers just for this kind of pickup. So it allows you to get really granular with your reporting. So it depends on what you want to do. They're very flexible to be used in a lot of different ways with duets, with other kinds of projects where you need to separate pickups out. This can be really helpful. And tags, while they are great, they do require you. So if you use tags a lot, you have to click this pencil icon, you have to type in narrator, you have to then select narrator, and then hit save. So we do have some other features that make this process easier for you. So if there's a particular tag that you're going to be using all the time, let's say this is a noise detected. Let's say my editor is going to handle this. I can tag it at editing. And if I'm going to be doing this a lot, I'm going to come out of the proofing interface. I'm going to go to my profile. And there is a section here for proofing and prep. Now these, again, are some underutilized features exist in this section here. Allows you to customize your proofing experience. And one thing in here is the one-click pickup tag. This is a really great feature. So if I wanted to, if I'm going to be using a particular tag a lot, I'd select it from this drop-down menu, click Update. I'm going to go back to my project, go to the proofing interface, and we see there's actually another button here with at editing. So this makes it a one-click process for you to mark things as a pickup while tagging it. So if I mark that, we can see it's marked it as a pickup, but it's also put the tag at editing there. So that's a really handy feature. Right now, you do have to select only one tag. There's another feature that I wanted to show you. If you come to your project again, we can see that this project here, I've actually named this. Before I uploaded it, I put at the end of the name of the file at editing. So that's a tag of ours in Pozotron. You could do this with any of our tags, whether it's at narrator, at pronunciation, or hashtag pronunciation. So there's a couple of different versions of them. This basically makes every time I click something or turn something into a pickup, it's going to apply that @editing symbol. So I actually don't need the @editing one-click pickup. It's already going to do that just by clicking pickup here. So you can actually use these in combination. You can have one-click pickup tag that has one tag you're using a lot. You can name your files with the tag at the end of it so that you're tagging your files appropriately. So this was an unknown feature. I actually didn't even know about it until somewhat recently. So I wanted to make sure you're all aware of that. All right, moving on. Let's see where I was at. Keyboard shortcuts. So let's pull up Pozotron again. So while you're in your proofing interface here, there's a bunch of hotkeys that are preset, and you can see those by clicking this symbol up at the top. The most important ones are A will mark things as okay, D will mark things as pickups, F will filter out, G for typo. So the way this works, if you have an annotation selected, either by selecting the card on the left side or selecting the annotation here, and I press D to mark it as a pickup, it will automatically mark it as a pickup, and it will also move along in the list to immediately highlight the next pickup in the list. So this can be used. Jack had a question. When you add @editing to your list, is there a hotkey for that? No, there is not. For the one-click pickup, there is not. That's a great idea, though. Thank you, Jack. We'll put that in for the developers. Hopefully, have that in soon. Very good point. When using the hotkeys, Jack is a very avid user of our hotkeys. So he knows all about them, but I'm going to show you workflow using the hotkeys that can allow you to do a quick spot check of any chapter in Pozotron. So we call this speed mode, but if you select the annotation at the top of the list on the left-hand side, and you get familiar with the hotkeys, spacebar plays and pauses the audio, and then the ones I already mentioned, A for OK, D for pickup. Those are the main ones, but there are other ones here. Using hotkeys, I can press spacebar to start listening to this this pickup or this annotation right here.
Chapter 1.
So we can see the audio starts at the right time. I would then press A on the keyboard, and it will instantly move to the next one in the list. So I'm going to press spacebar again to listen to that.
To know him, give him this mark of their appreciation.
So that's okay. Mark that as okay. We can see it automatically goes to the next.
The hospital, in order to start a practice for himself.
That's a pickup.
You will observe that he could not have been on the start.
That's okay.
As Sherlock Holmes leaned back into his settee.
That's a pickup.
Medical shelf, I took down the medical dictionary and turned up.
That's a pickup.
Unambitious and absent-minded. It is my experience.
That's fine.
And restless as the antennae of an insect.
That's okay.
Appeal strongly, then had you better not consult him.
That's a pickup. So that allows me to go through a 12-minute audio chapter in about 25 seconds. So this is just if you need to spot check Pozotron suggestions only. Obviously, we're skipping through all of the other audio there. But that is a workflow available to you. All right, some other options that I did want to just briefly touch upon is up here at the top. There is a playback speed button, so you can increase the speed or slow it down as you proof. So this will change the speed of the audio as it's played to you. This is a copy timestamp button if you need to copy the timestamp of where you're currently at to paste into your DAW. And then there's auto scrolling as well. Esther, is there a list of hotkeys on the Poz site? Yes. Oh, Adam, are you talking?
Johnny can show you right now. There's a couple places where it's listed.
Yep, so it's first listed here. You can always double check this, and this is the icon for it. This will show you every hotkey available. But if you go to our support page, I believe it's here. Speed mode here. Well, this is actually needs to be updated. We've added a lot more hotkeys since this article, so that's a good reminder. Thank you, Esther. But for now, if you ever need to be reminded, I would use this button up at the top. This will also change depending on what page you're in Pozotron. So if I'm in the pronunciation guide and I click this button, it'll show you what hotkeys are available when working on pronunciation.
And I've also added in an issue for our developers just right now to use the S key for the one-click pickup.
I love that. That's awesome. So thank you, Jack, for that suggestion. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else I'm missing here. Okay, the last thing I'll go over with you in the proofing interface is this show and hide functionality up at the top. And there's also a couple of buttons to mark all as pickups, or if you have corrected a chapter, to mark all of them as fixed. So those are our new buttons as well. The show and hide filter here allows you to look at only a specific kind of pickup or ignore a particular kind of pickup. So it's kind of like the annotation filter, but it doesn't actually mark them as anything. It's just removing them from your view. So if I did not want to see any of the noises or pauses for now, I could select both of those. And we can see the list on the left-hand side is updated. There's no pauses showing or noises. So if you have a ton of pickups on the left-hand side and the project's getting a little bit hard to keep tabs on, you can use this to focus in on a particular point. Okay, let's see. The filter out button. Adam, do you want to give them a brief explanation of how exactly the filter out button works?
Sure thing. Let's use misperceptions and mispronunciations. So if you go back to your slide, I can show exactly how that works.
Oh, sure.
So what this does, think of it as the ignore all key in Microsoft Word, where you say, I want to ignore every one of these errors that matches this exactly. So in this case, if you did filter out on the annotation at the bottom there at 5084, every time the script said mispronunciations and your narrator said misperceptions, if you click filter out, it'll ignore that exact same error throughout the entire rest of the project. However, if in the next chapter, the narrator says misperception, when it says mispronunciations, it will not ignore it because it is not exactly the same mistake. Likewise, if the narrator said misperceptions, but the script said mispronunciation, it won't be. So it has to be exactly the same error. So sometimes you might have to click filter out on the same error 2, maybe 3 times, just because there could be slight variations of it. But that's how it is intended to work. And that is by design, because, for example, if you want to change, using this weird example, if you wanted to change misperceptions to mispronunciations to misperceptions, but not mispronunciation to misperception, that's why we have it. We don't want it to accidentally ignore something that is potentially a mistake. So hopefully that makes sense.
It did. That was a great explanation. So really the key here is if you filter out and you're still seeing some of the same or very similar suggestions, it might take a couple of filter outs. You might need to filter out 1 or 2 instances of this particular thing for it to actually not suggest that again throughout the whole project. Thank you, Adam. Okay, moving on to export options. So these are our main export options here: DOM markers, pickup packets, and proofing reports. I just wanted to show you the importance of tags in these. So if I have things marked as @editing, I'm just going to mark a few here. And in my other chapter, I have things marked. I think I have some things marked as @narrator. So going to your pickup packet here, most of the time you can just hit export and that will export all of your pickups. But if you do need to separate them at all, use this customize your report here. And this allows you to, based on a certain tag, so Todd, for your particular narrator, let's say you're doing a duet, you can export all of the pickups for narrator 1. And when I hit export, this is only going to show me those pickups. So I only marked one thing as that. So it's not going to show everybody else's pickups that are on the project or the pickups that are meant for the editor. So it allows you to get very specific reports super quickly. Same with when you do export just all of them at once. we also will make automatic tabs. So if you want to just see the specific pickups for narrator 1 at editing and narrator, this one is all notes will show everybody's pickups. But if I click at editing, it will only show me those there. So this report can be very customizable, especially if you're utilizing tags, and it can make the reporting process a whole lot easier. The other export options are DAW markers and the proofing report. So DAW markers, I just wanted to make sure you know what these are. I'll pull up our slide actually so you can see. This is in Audacity. We have DAW markers for pretty much every DAW on the market. And if you don't see it in the list in Pozotron, just let us know. But this allows you to export markers that will show you exactly where your pickups are in your audio file. So this is an example in Audacity. It opens a second track here, showing you exactly where those issues are. Kim, do you have Goldwave? I don't believe we have Goldwave. Adam, do you know?
We do not. If memory serves, I'd have to check my email. We've looked into it in the past, but no, we don't currently. And Esther, likewise, got OSIN yet? No, there's lots of reasons why that's unfortunately their DAW marker functionality from an integration perspective is challenging, if not non-existent. Basically, the way, just to give some, Johnny, for people on the back end of things, in some cases, we can get publicly available information and just replicate what their DAW marker import looks like. In many cases, we reach out to Ocean or OSIN or other companies, and we just never hear back. And so despite following up many times, we just can't get the information on what we actually need to do from the company. So in many cases, that's what happens.
Thanks, Adam. And generally, the DAW needs to be able to import files. So I've played around with a lot of DAWs where they don't have an import feature for markers at all. So even if we're able to export a report that was in the correct format, you would not be able to import it into that particular DAW. But we will keep trying, Esther. Thanks. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The main thing I wanted to let you know about the export options is customizing it in relation to your tags, because that makes the reports a lot more powerful. The pickup packets, the DAW markers, it makes it a lot more powerful if you can get specific markers for specific kinds of pickups, things like that. Anything else I'm missing? I don't think so, and I know we're almost out of time, so I'm sorry everyone for talking your ear off. Adam, is there anything else here that you think I should touch on?
No, I think it looks great. And
Cool.
Kim, to answer your question, I did look, and the only mention I have of Goldwave is an email chain with you from a couple years ago. So we can easily look into it again.
Okay, one last thing before I let you go. I only showed you one thing in this settings menu here, but going to your profile and going to proofing and prep, there are some customizable options that just make your proofing experience more custom to you, such as selecting your preferred dictionary so you don't need to change it every time you go into the pronunciation guide. So I could select Merriam-Webster here. Default DAW markers, so you don't need to go ahead and choose your DAW every time. You can just choose the one that you always use. That just speeds up the reports a little bit. You can turn on and off online pickup packet if you don't want downloads to be able to happen. You can turn that off. You can also change the misread format. Some people prefer the SB for should be. So instead of this arrow on your pickups, it would show SB and also in your DAW markers. And then the one-click pickup tag, which we already went over. This allows you to make sure Pozotron never suggests certain words to you on the pronunciation guide suggestions list. So certain ones that for some reason Pozotron was suggesting ER to me, I didn't want to see that anymore, so I put that in here. It'll just kind of get rid of it forever. And then finally, a couple of options to tag noise pickups with @editing automatically. So you don't need to have the one-click pickup tag or any of the other methods. You can just have that happen automatically. And then a prompt. If you want to make sure, if you're using a prep script to do your script prep, but you don't want to record with that script, it's actually a good idea to turn this on, because Pozotron will prompt you before you upload audio, hey, are you sure this is the final script? Because you cannot change it after you've uploaded audio. So if you need a reminder there, this can be very helpful. Okay. I think that's it for me. I think I've talked everyone's ears off. If you have any further questions on this or question on integrating any of these features into your workflow, let us know. We went over everything today, and that can be, some of those things can really apply to your workflow. Some things don't apply at all. So if you have any further questions, we're happy to help you anytime. Just let us know.
2 more quick questions here. Ashley Chamberlain. Ashley, I know you're looking to see runtime based on narrator. That is coming, but in a report that we're exporting, that we're developing, that should hopefully come out next month. And then Emma, all pause pickups to @editing to. That's definitely something we can add. I'll add it to our dev roadmap right after this.
Yeah, it might be nice to, if you're using the annotation filter, mark all pauses with a particular tag, maybe.
We'd be able to. We'd probably do it the same way that we did for noises, where you can automatically tag it when you mark.
That makes sense. Perfect. Well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining. I see thank you so much. I'm glad it was helpful. My head is spinning too, Margaret, so you're not alone. I guess that's it. If you have any other questions, if there's anything else we can do to help, feel free to reach out to me or Adam directly, or this Get Help button. And thanks so much for joining. We appreciate it.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.
See ya.